Alright, welcome back. I hope you're having a good day. It's been about 5 weeks since I pruned this Ficus microcarpa down to nothing. And you can see it's leafing out quite well. I've always thought, what if I took the time to get in there and kind of got rid of all the little twigs that we don't need right now. So far, every time I've usually just, either recently repotted or whatever, and I just wanted to regain health. So sometimes when I chop them down like this, I just want to let it go. Get in pretty close and just kind of show you my thought process as I go in and try to clean these things up. Some of them got some dieback, didn't really grow back all that well. Some of them have tons of leaves coming out of the crotches. But this tree has been in this pot now for 2 years, and I'd like to take it to the next level, so we'll see what happens. And I will go ahead. I'm going to start. This is a branch coming off of here. I'm going to see how much of that I can get in the shot all at once. But I'm going to start there and then just kind of work my way up from there. Alright, so this is the upper part of that growth. This branch I do believe is one that I almost broke off in one of the other videos as I was just trying to flex the branches around a little bit. But there's a ton of growth coming out of the crotch here and right along the top of both crotches. Here's a bunch of growth where it's just growing in on itself. And again, that's kind of growing in on itself there too. That one's going down. And some of it just gets way too busy. All out of one spot. There's one out of the bottom. So I tried to just been using my fingers. Again, my first branch here, so as I'm trying to do this where you guys can see a little more detail. And got all the straight branches out of the bottom, tried to separate out. We got now 5 branches in there. Alright, so we're going to work our way over to here. I do remember even when I first pruned this tree hard the last time that I was considering taking this out because this kind of looked like it was starting to go straight down. And now I will. And then also right in the seams of those branches, there's another one coming down there. That little piece there is going straight up. This whole piece here could almost be considered maybe growing a little bit too straight downish. But I was trying to leave it as just a little area of interest. We'll leave that. There's just not that much growth in that area to begin with. There's a little piece of growth here going back into the trunk. And then this is a good branch that I'd like to keep in that position, especially if I ever do decide to cut any further up. Just going to kind of get rid of a few of the bigger leaves, otherwise as I continue to go around here it's just going to kind of distract me a little bit. Alright, so this should take care of, we should now have in view here the rest of that piece. That's kind of the mid piece there. There's some pieces growing straight up off the trunk. A couple going straight down. It's actually quite a bit going straight down. couple other things I noticed after that heavy prune the other time as I was watching it recover a little bit, that there were a few tridents here and there which are supposed to be avoided. And this whole piece right here is really busy and growing right into the other branch. And go ahead and eliminate that. Alright, that opened that up a little bit. Alright, and then here's the lowest point that the tree has any foliage. Don't really want any new stuff going off the trunk there, so I just went ahead and took those off. Might leave that one there. This one had a little trident action going there, but the trident part actually died. And then that piece is coming straight down. And there's a couple little, they're almost not even really leaves yet, they're just little buds coming right straight out of the top though. Yeah. Taking that piece out because it's growing into that aerial root a little bit too thick for my fingers there, so I got that. There, I'm not really looking for that to be a branch like a thickest one on the bottom or anything like that, just little points of interest. Alright, there was one other really small branch that I worked off camera down below. Working our way kind of up and around now. This, I think I might have even planned on leaving some growth around that. This is where I got a little overzealous with the knob cutters trying to cut out that scar. Almost broke. I thought that was at the first branch I worked, but it wasn't. That's exactly where it was, but it's recovering fine, so went ahead and took that growth off. I'm actually going to go ahead and say that one almost could have been cut off from coming straight down from that one, but now that I cut the upper one off, that'll give that one some room to kind of grow up there. I think over time that'll be fine, and then those two are coming off to the side. That's right out of the bottom. And then before I adjust and go over too much, I'm going to go ahead and take care of these two. Just a big piece coming off the bottom. A little spot I could kind of do with or without, but actually I'll take that one out too. It's kind of coming down low. This one's actually coming out in a spot where it wouldn't be bad to have a branch. It's either that or cut it all the way back to nothing, and then I've got a scar, so I guess a branch is better than a scar. So now we'll work our way around. Alright, so this spot here had just a couple branches kind of poking out of there. Just a little dieback. And when I noticed that at first, I realized some of that probably should have pruned off to begin with. And again, a lot of straight down growth here. This branch has a ton of growth, but it's flimsy, and it did kind of start out by coming straight down. So I'll go ahead and eliminate it for now, seeing how I can tell there's plenty of growth around it. This one never really was in the best of spots. And super straight. And kind of didn't have the healthiest looking growth on there anyway. So that should do there. That should be alright. You guys can see that. I've been trying to adjust and change the background so you can see my backdrop instead of all that foliage behind it, but hasn't been the easiest thing to do. Alright, we're getting up into the upper canopy. Really hard to get very many good angles. At this state here, it has a lot of younger, really tender growth growing right out of the bottom. So that's been the first thing I've been doing. And then just kind of getting out towards the ends of the foliage and just kind of thinning it out a little bit. Taking out a little bit of the weaker growth so that the stronger growth can just kind of take over. Then I gotta kind of go up to the next level. Although I think I can get out some of those lower ones you guys can see. This whole piece here could kind of be considered the apex sometimes in these tropical style trees. Don't really have all that defined of an apex, you just have kind of a top canopy or whatever, if you will. So, you know, if that was a normal branch, I might consider that straight up growth. But since it's, you know, where it is, it's just kind of crowning out the top there. Alright, so I'm slowly working my way up the tree. Thought I'd adjust that camera about 5 or 6 times on the way around, but I've already had to move it 9-10 times. I'm not anywhere near done. But I do hope you're getting a little bit of a closer look up of, well, if anything, what a healthy ficus should look like. Alright, so with the angle my camera turns out to be able to take here, probably got about 3 more spots to go. Go ahead and hit this one first. Really didn't want to do any tip pruning, but that shoot right there was already 3 or 4 inches long, and it was just that little skinny branch by itself. Kind of in a spot where, as I look at my vision for the tree, it doesn't really matter whether it stayed or not. This was another one of the tridents I kept seeing, so I'll take out the middle of that one. And even though this is morphing into the apex here a little bit, it's just really busy coming out of that spot there. And that should just a little more energy kind of go into fanning out and to kind of making a pad-ish if you want. And then this is kind of all of that, the last 3 or 4 branches that I pruned. I don't know how much of this I'll be able to edit out and leave in, but all of those are actually coming from the same trunk. This is up a little bit higher than anything else. It's from a different kind of a trunk from the clump from the bottom that eventually all kind of comes together. But this one's out here on its own. Definitely not going to be able to do much more with the background from that. So I'll just have to go in as it is. I think it's a little more busy than the rest of it. It's because it's, you know, it's got that spot there where it can catch all the light up the top if it wants. It's pretty good. It's not quite as thick as that other trunk, like right under it, but it's got some pretty good girth on it, and so it's just sending all of its energy out this one way. But it's also just causing a big clump of kind of uncontrollable growth. And this spot over here, just felt it a second ago, there's a bunch of extra growth there, and then this piece here is really strong too. They're almost competing with each other. I think this one, the lower one, has to go there. I should open that up just a little bit. And that was the piece that was kind of growing into. I took that one off too, but still left the branch. And that spot's too busy. And then these two here are way too busy too. I think that's looking a little more open than it was. Alright, this is basically the last group I'm going to get here. It's actually a little bit lower than those other pieces, but just somehow the way I kind of was spinning around working my way up, it just kind of naturally skipped it over. This one has some dieback on it too, and then right where the dieback actually started growing, instead of putting out like a branch, it keeps pushing out like 7 or 8 branches. And you can tell it's just too much in one spot. That's right out of the bottom. That's not in the best of a spot there, but it is kind of hiding that scar behind it. So I'll probably leave that for now. A handful of these leaves have gotten huge considering this thing was bare 5 weeks ago. And I might go ahead that piece there that I just cut off, I think an earlier thought on that might have been actually saving that to kind of cover up that scar too. Not necessarily for foliage to cover it up, but just for growth so that it would eventually close up. It's almost getting there now anyway, so. And there's the result of the clippings of the work done for the day. Alright, and that's just about enough for the day. I said I've never really taken the time to do that. I always just kind of figured growth was growth. But, you know, in 30 days, or actually I guess it was 5 weeks. It's a little bit longer than 30 days, but, you know, it's a ton of growth, and it was just a lot of unwanted growth. Hoping that maybe some of these wanted branches will just kind of develop a little bit more. But either way, it's going to develop. You know, I don't think there's a chance that this will turn out ugly of any sort. I really like this tree.